Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. It looks as if I have something in mind. Pack of books. Let's see. Yeah, it's half moon. We just have finished a week of full day go practice. Sitting together in the Dhamma hall here, listening to Ajahn Sucitto's teachings and readings from the suttas, and trying to apply that to our practice. Is it loud enough? And of course, all of us know that one day it's wonderful, the other day it's not so wonderful, and sitting, walking, the body isn't quite used to it, and you have aches here and aches there, and so I guess we have all had our usual group practice experience with changing satisfaction during the days, and exactly that can be a cause for learning. And I have been asked a few times, why did you become a nun? And usually I kind of brush that question away. And I'm just here. But sometimes the question is coming back, why? Why? And I guess we all have reasons why we are here, as a nun, as a lay person, as a monk, as a samanera, anagarika. Yeah, but maybe I can share a little bit. I have come quite late, comparingly. So I had been working as a teacher and an artist in Germany, and had quite a comfortable life, quite a free life, with working part-time and relatively free freedom what to do and how to work. And but as you can imagine, even in a situation which is quite favorable, there's also unsatisfactoriness. And especially when I was just getting 40, I think, I realized that something had changed, that my relationship to the students had changed. I wasn't quite one of them any longer. I obviously go into their parents' age, and they started to keep a little bit apart from me, which was a painful change, but also very good, because it made it clear to me that actually I'm a different generation, and I have different ideals, and maybe it's actually good that this happens, and I can ask myself really, why am I here? What do I want to do with my life, the rest of my life? Oh dear. And I could see that colleagues of mine, who had kind of started with me, or were a little bit older than me, they started to get impatient, they started to get irritated, they started to get unfriendly with the students, they started to yell at them, and I don't know what's happening with them, They were quite fine teachers, but why do they change now? And I slowly noticed, even with myself, that the nervous system is not so robust any longer. So even when you have a full class and they have their moods and whatever, and it's not always easy to accommodate that. And I realized, okay, so especially those who were older than I was, I could really see that they couldn't tuck things away any longer. They were just more reactive and irritable. And that made it even more urgent for me to think, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? Do I want to, continue for 20 more years with this job and struggle? Or is there something, how do I want to use the energy I still have? I remember that very clearly. I had this question. The life energy is kind of slowly decreasing, so how do I want to use it skillfully? How do I want to grow into aging? Anyway, from my perspective now, I can say that my dear changing and irritable colleagues were something like a bit like Devadutas, warning me of there's something like aging. I can't pretend I'm not part of it. So thank you very much. So I started to look for alternatives, and not just doing my duty and doing it well and enjoying doing my duty and no, there must be more. And I started to meditate. and I got interested in a kind of awareness movement teaching. And that eventually brought me to Java, and I went on sabbatical and studied with a Javanese teacher in Indonesia. And he was a Buddhist, but he tried to be kind of open to all religions. But from now, seeing it from now, I can really say, I can see how much he was Buddhist. And although he didn't try to impose any Buddhist principles, just the way of opening, the awareness towards the flow of life in our behavior, and seeing, how we restrict ourselves and for what reasons. And he was very good in encouraging to move through restrictions, acknowledge them and move through, and not accumulate, and get stuck and going in circles. What we usually do when we develop habits. And I remember especially one day, which was really life-changing for me, when I don't know what it was, but there was something which really angered me, and I was really angry. And so with this kind of movement, you don't hold back, but you express it, but you take responsibility for it, so you don't throw your anger at somebody, you just go, wah, wah, wah. And when you do that consciously, how long can you be consciously angry? I realized, I thought, I'm angry, and I have a good reason to be angry. But when you notice what you're doing, and you do it deliberately, it's less than a minute, I think, where something just shifts. Usually anger is, we can brood in anger when we have reasons, why this person did something absolutely wrong and insensitive, and then we can go on and on. But if you move, you take it on a physical level, and then things change, because you don't. Even if I would have said, this was wrong, when you repeat it, it just becomes nonsense. Anyway, so I was raging for half a minute or whatever, and then I had to laugh. And that really upset me. I'm angry, I'm not laughing. I have a good reason to be angry. I'm not laughing. This is, if somebody would, no, I'm not laughing about it. And it was just, from the very heart, it was just laughing. It was a laughing of relief that I didn't have to take the anger seriously. So it was liberating, but my mind was just attached to the idea of anger and reasonable anger, And so I'm not letting go of that. And then I was confused. What's happening here? So At first I'm angry, then I'm laughing, then I'm confused. I'm a person of integrity, I'm... And it was a... And at that point I really didn't understand what was happening. I was really confused. And I started to notice during the day, I was not a moody person, I was quite, I was a teacher. I was solid, I was clear, and I was, straightforward. So then, I had a bit of a crisis. And I noticed that these things were happening more often, and so my cherished solidity and clarity went out of the window. And on the land we were walking, there were sheep, and they had lambs, and lambs were sweet, they would run around and jump around like lambs do, and meh, meh, and I was, Mama, Mama, I don't understand the word any longer, Mama, Mama. Each time when these sheep, the lambs were kind of doing the meh, I was close to tears, and my whole thinking mind didn't work any longer. It was just, I could do things. I didn't understand anything what I was doing. And this teacher was really amazing in challenging our controlling habits. We had to move with each other and with things and understand each other with your own body. No, you understand with your head, you're not with your body. And I realized actually there was something happening when you move with somebody. You pick up so much that you move suddenly the same way as they do, or whatever you. But how? So my mind was hopelessly behind, and so basically my personality structure crumbled, and that's called a crisis. And so I had dreams, and German Wirtschaftswunder girl. After the war, everything the best, and buildings. In my dreams, these buildings, straight, high buildings were like becoming like blades of grass, kind of bending over in the wind, and everything which seemed to be stable and safe was kind of completely out of control. And oh God. Anyway, for some lucky reasons, there was somebody who gave me a book. I don't know how much I had actually shared what was happening with me, because that was not necessarily something you would share with everybody. But somebody gave me this book, and it was a book about the Buddhist teachings, and some Buddhist teachings. And there I read a teaching about the 5 khandhas. Never heard before. I think I've never read something, with suttas from the Buddha. So I never had a book, with the Buddha's teachings in my hand before. So, I was teaching about the five khandhas. The five khandhas are the groups, 5 groups of attachment, upadana khandha. And many of you may know, so it's it's called corporeality group, the form, body group, then the group of feelings, then the group of perceptions, then the group of mental formations or intentional formations, and then consciousness group. The 6 consciousnesses, senses, sense consciousnesses. And the teaching was about we think, that's us. We are a personality, we are a self, we are... And actually none of these elements or groups have anything which allow us to identify with them, because they are changing. And the Buddha gives a very beautiful, simple simile of a cart. So if you have a cart, has wheels, has a platform, has railings, has axles, and something to pull the cart. Right. And if these things come together, you speak of a cart. And if these things are not together, the wheel is lying there, platform is standing there, the railings are leaning against something, nobody thinks of that could be a cart. And likewise, when body, feeling, perception, and mental formations, consciousness come together, we speak of a person. But if you take them as such, none of them has anything of me or mine. Oh, right. This is what I just experienced. So thank you. There is somebody who has actually thought about that before, so I'm not mad here. That was a relief. So I started to get highly interested in what the Buddha was teaching. And that, in consequence, led to that when I came back to Germany and I had a bit of a spiritual quest and found the Buddhist Society in Hamburg. And I guess the person who gave me the book was the partner of the Indonesian teacher, who was actually from Hamburg and came then back to Hamburg as well. So we both went to the Buddhist Society. It's easier to do new things when you're two. So, and we could. So she gave me probably the book. So, we need people. We need good people from whom we can learn, with whom we can discuss the Dhamma. And so it was not an adventure which you forget and then there's another adventure. It was really becoming something like the core of my life. And you need the teachings, you need the good Dhamma to make sense of what happens in life. So that friend of mine, then in the attic of the Buddhist society, there was a little flat, and somebody lived in there who became anagaric and Amaravati. So my friend was highly interested and was speaking with him a lot, and before he left, and he let her the attic to live in. So now I had a friend who lived in the Buddhist society, and I was there more often, and basically got all the teachers. Ajahn Sumedho would come, Beka Roshi would come, Thich Nhat Hanh. Thich Nhat Hanh was the first monk I met and did a retreat with. And so Tibetan teachers would come, all kinds of Zen teacher, Korean Zen, American Zen. So I got a bit of a taste for different Buddhist traditions. And then my friend decided to become Anagarika in Amaravati. And I thought, that's a bit too much. So, and she said, oh no, you can come and visit me. No, I'm not going and visit the monastery. Thank you. Not me. I had a kind of strange perception of monasteries, of people who were there in a kind of forced way and shut away. Anyway, it was not my lifestyle, and so. But I was interested and did retreats and readings, and she sent me a lot of Ajahn Sumedho's teachings, Ajahn Amaro's teachings. So, that was really good. And then eventually she managed to get a retreat place for me with Ajahn Sumedho in the retreat center in Amaravati. And she reassured me that the retreat center at Amaravati is not the monastery. And I didn't know Amaravati, so I believed her. And I mean, who knows? The retreat center in Amaravati is true. The retreat center is economically kind of separate, but it's pretty close. So I did a 10-day retreat with Ajahn Sumedho and was over the moon. And then at the end of the retreat, she said, oh, come and I introduce you to the nuns. Anyway, I went and I realized they were pretty normal. Ajahn Sunra joking and being very jovial, and I just realized my perception of monastery or Buddhist monastery actually was completely wrong. And so I started to come, and during the school holidays I started to visit Amaravati, and I also came to Chithurst. And slowly I got drawn into it, and then did another sabbatical and lived a year at Amaravati to find out whether I can live this life. And at the end of it, I became Anagarika. And I only wanted to do it for 3 years and, get over my fear of getting older and having problems and just be mindful and happy. But I think year 2, winter retreat, found me in tears because I didn't want to go back to school. So something had happened where I noticed that deep in my heart I wanted to live a different life. And anyway, it took a while to come to terms with it. But the really teaching which brought that change of perspective about was the Kanda Sutta. And I had a look in my books in the Nansihara, and I thought I read a little bit. One is the Buddhist Dictionary, the Manual of Buddhist Terms and Doctrines, by Tiloka, who was a German monk who went to Sri Lanka at the end of the 19th century and became a very famous scholar. And so, about Kanda, the 5 groups of existence, or groups of clinging. Upadana Kanda. Upadana is clinging, and Kandas are the groups. They are also translated as aggregates or heaps, but that's not to take literally heaps, not physical heaps, it's just like groups. These are the 5 aspects in which the Buddha has summed up all the physical and mental phenomena of existence, and which appear to the ignorant man as his ego or personality. To wit, he calls it the corporeality group, Rupa Kanda. Second, the feeling, Vedana Kanda. Then the perception, Sanya Kanda. Then the mental formation, Sankhara Kanda. And then the consciousness group, Vijnana Kanda. And then the teachings of the Buddha go, whatever there exists of corporeal things, whether past, present, or future, one's own or external, gross or subtle, lofty or low, far or near, all that belongs to the corporeality group. And then that gets repeated for feelings, for perception, mental formations, and sense consciousness. And then Tiloka says, what is called individual existence is in reality nothing but a mere process of those mental and physical phenomena, a process that since time immemorial, has been going on, and that also, after death, will still continue for unthinkably long periods of time. These 5 groups, however, neither singly nor collectively constitute any self-dependent, real ego entity or personality, atta, nor is there to be found any such entity apart from them. Hence, the belief in such an ego entity or personality as real in the ultimate sense proves a mere illusion. And then there is a kind of poetical a few lines. When all consistent parts are there, the designation card is used. just so, where the 5 groups exist, of living being do we speak. So that is, in dictionary terms, the story I remembered. And then you may remember we have a chanting. One of the suttas, the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, the characteristics of non-self. And I think I prefer that translation. And I really like to chant that because the reasoning is so beautiful. So it starts with form, and then it goes on the same with feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. But I just read the form part. Form, because, is not self. If, because, form were self, then form would not lead to affliction, and one might be able to say in regard to form, let my form be thus, let my form not be thus. But since, because, form is not self, form therefore leads to affliction, and one is not able to say in regard to form, let my form be thus, let my form not be thus. So, translated to feeling, let my feeling be thus, let me be angry, because I'm angry. It doesn't work, So it cannot quite be me, this anger. Who's in control here, And then it goes on. What do you think about this, bhikkhus? Is form permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Venerable Sir. But is that which is impermanent painful or pleasurable? Painful, Venerable Sir. But is it fit to consider that which is impermanent, painful, of a nature to change as this is mine, I am this is myself? It is not, Venerable Sir. And then he goes on with feelings and perceptions and so on, all 5 khandhas. And then the third part of the reasoning is coming. Wherefore, because whatever form there is, past, future, present, internal or external, gross or subtle, inferior or superior, whether it is far or near, all form should, by means of right wisdom, be seen as it really is. Thus, this is not mine, I am not this is not myself. Can you imagine how relieved I was when I was reading that in my confusion? So what then happened, I was clinging to this teaching, Feeling is not self, nothing's, And I remember Ajahn Sumedho at the end of the retreat, he was asking us how the retreat was, and we were maybe 8 or 10, had group interviews with him. And he was kind of asking me, how I felt about the retreat, and I was just barking back. There's no I. There's no. And so I couldn't accommodate that in my experience yet. So that's a long story. How can we accommodate this teaching in our daily life and understanding? And I think I'm still learning, but it's such a great learning, And always when it's painful, I know, okay, it's painful because I'm clinging. So thank you, I don't have to take that personally. And then you see that sometimes you do, But at least the moment is coming closer where I realize, okay, just the old story, I don't need to believe that, I don't need to suffer from that. The beauty is sooner or later seeing it this way, because the wise noble disciple becomes disenchanted with form, becomes disenchanted with feeling, becomes disenchanted with perception, becomes disenchanted with mental formations, becomes disenchanted with consciousness. Becoming disenchanted, their passions fade away. With the fading away of passion, the heart is liberated. With the liberation, there comes the knowledge. It is liberated. And they know, destroyed is birth. The holy life has been lived out. Done is what had to be done. There is no more coming into any state of being. This was the second discourse the Buddha was teaching after his enlightenment to his former ascetic friends. And thus spoke the Blessed One, delighted. The group of 5 bhikkhus rejoiced in what the Blessed One had said. Moreover, while this discourse was being delivered, the minds of the 5 bhikkhus were freed from the defilements, through clinging no more. So, it can only have a good ending. So, I think this is worth living the monastic life, and I guess you can agree. It's a great orientation, And I found one sutta here in the Samyutta Nikaya. It's very short. It's about a bhikkhuni. Her name is, or was, Vajira, at Savatthi. Then in the morning, the bhikkhuni Vajira, dressed and taking bowl and robe, entered Savatthi for alms. When she had walked for alms in Savatthi and had returned from her alms round, after her meal she went to the blind man's grove for the day's abiding. Having plunged into the blind man's grove, she sat down at the foot of a tree for the day's abiding. Then Mara, the evil one, desiring to arouse fear, trepidation, and terror in the bhikkhuni Vajira, desiring to make her fall away from concentration, approached her and addressed her in verse. By whom has this being been created? Where is the maker of this being? Where has the being arisen? Where does the being cease? so she wasn't stupid. Then it occurred to the Bhikkhuni Vajira, now, who is this that recites the verse? A human being or a non-human being? Then it occurred to her, this is Mara, the evil one, who has recited the verse desiring to arouse fear, trepidation and terror in me, desiring to make me fall away from concentration. Then the Bhikkhuni Vajira, having understood, this is Mara, the evil one, replied to him in verses. Why now do you assume a being? Mara, is that your speculative view? This is a heap of sheer formations. Here no being is found. Just as with an assemblage of parts the word chariot is used, so when the aggregates exist, there is the convention, a being. It's only suffering that comes to be. Suffering that stands and falls away. Nothing but suffering comes to be. Nothing but suffering ceases. Then Mara, the evil one, realizing, the Bhikkhuni Vajira knows me, sad and disappointed, disappeared right there. I thought that is a beautiful example to end this talk with. So I hope that was meaningful for you, and thank you for listening. Andamayam Dhammakacaya Sadhukarang Dadamase